Wait, you're a Bears fan and you're not subscribed to my channel? Before this video starts, make sure to 1. Hit the subscribe button below to catch all Bears content right here on this podcast. 2. Hit the bell notification because you, my friend, are a diehard Bears fan. And 3. Like this video and tell all the Bears fans you know about the channel. Alright, that's better. Now that you're actually subscribed to the channel, make sure to bear down and enjoy this video. Hey, what's going on, Bears fans? Thank you so much for joining me for another episode of Keek on the Mic, the podcast all about the Chicago Bears. Before I introduce today's special guest, I just want to remind you guys again that Keek on the Mic is officially on Apple Podcasts, so for some strange reason you don't want to see my beautiful face, you can listen to me on the go, in your car, on the radio, wherever you are, right on Apple Podcasts. Make sure you rate and review this podcast. That'll be much appreciated. Make sure you also check out my recent interview with newly drafted Chicago Bear cornerback Thomas Graham Jr. Very, very good interview. Make sure you check that out. And before we continue in today's podcast, I also have some big news. I was nominated by a panel as one of the top 10 Chicago Bears YouTube channels to follow in 2021 by FeedSpot. If you would like to check out this list out by FeedSpot, I will have the link down below. So just want to give them a quick shout out. But today's special guest is a very, very good brother of mine, brother from another mother. We've known each other for years, and that is Mr. Tanner Weiss. How you doing, Tanner?
Good. How are you? Thanks for having me.
Yeah, no problem. You know, you're getting used to the Chicago Bears thing. This is like your second time on a Chicago Bears podcast, and I want to let people know that Tanner is a Colts fan.
Yeah, as long as the Bears are not playing the Colts, I will root for the Bears every week. I like the Bears, especially with Justin Fields. I was celebrating as well when they drafted him, so I'm excited for them. I'm excited for you, all the fans, so it'll be fun.
Tanner was nervous for us Bears fans, including myself, when rumors were coming out before the draft that we were going to get Davis Mills from Stanford. When he was like, oh, the Bears really like Davis Mills. And I remember when we drafted Justin Fields, I got one of the first people to text me was actually Tanner. He's like, congrats, that's big time. So it's like people around the NFL know that the Bears finally got it right.
Yeah.
Finally got it right.
And it's finally, in circles, it's known that they did the right thing.
Yeah.
Getting Justin Fields. So.
Yeah, and for years, obviously, everyone knows that the Bears' best quarterback, to me, is Jay Cutler. We would probably say Jay Cutler. And it's not going to take a lot for Mr. Justin Fields to, be great in Chicago.
Exactly, yeah. 4,000 yards, and I think he would be up there as one of the best.
And Tanner, before we continue with this episode of Keek on the Mic today, I have to say, one of the first things that I saw when I woke up this morning was Justin Fields' post in a Bears uniform. And I'm not going to lie to you, I got a little hot and bothered. I'm not going to sit there and lie. That just got me really pumped up for this upcoming season.
Yeah, he looks good. It's a good fit for him. It looks natural. It already looks like he's worn that jersey for 20 years. So,
right.
And I think the one looks great on him. So,
and that would be fine for us Bears fans. 20 years, 5 Super Bowls, Yep. He ends up creating a dynasty here in Chicago. We wouldn't mind that at all. He would become the new Michael Jordan, the modern day Michael Jordan.
Absolutely. And other athletes coming up would look up to him.
Absolutely.
As the face of the NFL.
Exactly. So now that we're on the topic of quarterbacks, everyone knows it's all around the NFL now, and you're the perfect person to discuss this with, is Aaron Rodgers holding out. Aaron Rodgers is disgruntled. He doesn't want to be a Packer anymore, which is music to Chicago Bears fans' ears. I don't know what's going to happen, but Tanner, do you think Aaron Rodgers is ever going to come back?
That's a tough one. He looks like he's living his best life right now. All the vacations that he's been on, it looks like he's in no rush to come back and play for any team, let alone the Packers.
Right.
So I think if anything happens, I think it would be next off season that they trade him. But I mean, the odds are that he comes back, but I don't know. He seems very happy.
Right. He's hosting Jeopardy, the game show, which was a long time dream for Aaron Rodgers. He's going on vacations with his new fiance. He's living his best life. He's not concerned about football one bit. But then you got Green Bay Packers fans Matt LaFleur and freaking Devontae Adams looking like sad little puppies.
Yep.
Because they don't have their quarterback. And we talked about this already, but we kind of feel bad for Matt LaFleur a little bit because he did nothing wrong.
Yeah.
He did nothing wrong.
In every interview, Aaron Rodgers has said, the coaching staff is great. My teammates are great. The fans are great. Green Bay is great. The only thing he doesn't compliment is the front office.
Yeah.
But everything else is great. And he's come out and said that he loves LaFleur, but I feel, you've got to feel bad for him. He's been one of the best coaches in the NFL,
right?
Thanks to having one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL. And he's set up for success for the next 4 or 5 years if the Packers didn't mess this up. And I think that's where, his latest interview yesterday, the day before, when asked about it, he looked heartbroken because you could tell he's like, I didn't do anything wrong. I was just here to try and win games.
Right.
So you got to feel for him, but at the same time, if he doesn't get the job done in Green Bay, he'll get the job done somewhere else for sure. He's a great head coach. He will win whether it's in Green Bay or on another team.
Right.
If that is what they do in the future.
Right. And, the only reason why I'm bringing this up, I don't like to talk about the Green Bay Packers often, but obviously this affects the NFC North, which affects the Chicago Bears. And we know this is good news for the Chicago Bears because I feel like if Aaron Rodgers leaves, that, I think, puts the Chicago Bears as the front runner for the NFC North. I don't think the Vikings are quite there yet. They're a good football team, but with Kirk Cousins, they're not quite there yet. And then no one is scared of Jared Goff and the Lions. So I think Aaron Rodgers leaving would not only affect the NFC North, but it would affect the entire NFL. Wouldn't you agree?
Exactly, yeah. And any team he goes to, he'll elevate that team. But as far as the NFC North, that division will be wide open. Well, except for the Lions. They're rebuilding. They've got, plenty of draft picks to try and figure out their quarterback situation. But I think in terms of the Vikings, really the Vikings and the Bears, because we don't know anything about Jordan Love. If it comes down to the Bears and the Vikings, the Bears, the defense will carry them over Kirk Cousins easily, with no doubt. So as far as the rest of the NFL, if he leaves the NFC, I think that really opens up the door for any other NFC team to try and take down Tampa Bay.
Exactly. And where does Aaron Rodgers go? Where does he go? If you had to give a list, or let's just say one team, where will Aaron Rodgers be within the next 2 years?
My best bet would be Denver. They've said that I think they've even put it on billboards outside of their stadium that they will do whatever it takes to get Aaron Rodgers. He said that he wants to play in Denver. I don't know why he wouldn't. So they've got a great young team. But if they get him, that really makes that division a very fun and competitive division. But I think I would have to say Denver's probably the one team, unless Sam Darnold stinks in Carolina.
Right.
Then Carolina might say, forget about it, and they might try and go Rodgers, but
just think about it. Just think about Aaron Rodgers in Denver for a second. The AFC West would have Aaron Rodgers in frickin' Denver, Patrick Mahomes, the young GOAT, in Kansas City. Yep. Derek Carr is no slouch in Las Vegas, and then you have the young stud in Justin Herbert in Los Angeles. That division would be tough. That would be prime time football for all of those divisional games, hands down. Hands down, especially 100%. The ones with Patrick Mahomes versus Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah, that would probably go and jump that division to be the best division in football, only because of the quarterbacks. You never know where you're going to go. Right.
So. And it's kind of cool to think because we're talking about great quarterback divisions. Just because Aaron Rodgers leaves the NFC North, I think the NFC North would have something special too. Justin Fields in Chicago. You got Kellen Mond in Minnesota. And then Jordan Love with the Packers. All young, let me mention this, African-American quarterbacks that if they all pan out for the next 10 to 12 years, that could be something special to see there in NFC North.
Yeah, especially if they do pan out, one, and two, stay with those teams.
Right.
And they become the face of the franchise for those three teams. Hopefully, Lamar Jackson's still out there. I think that would be huge for just the NFL.
Right.
And the audience to be able to watch that in primetime games.
Right. And I have to say this, Tanner, I don't feel bad for Green Bay Packers fans because Chicago Bears fans have been looking for a quarterback before I was born. So I don't feel bad for Green Bay Packers fans. They're finally in our shoes for once. I think the Packers have been very lucky to have Brett Favre and then instantly into another really, really good quarterback, if not the greatest of all time, in Aaron Rodgers. If you take the rings away, I would probably have to put Aaron Rodgers up there as one of the greatest quarterbacks that ever played in the NFL, easily.
Yep.
But I do also want to mention that I feel like the Green Bay Packers are kind of dumb for trying to hold on. He doesn't want to be a part of the Green Bay Packers organization anymore. Right. You have teams out there like the Denver Broncos that are willing to give up anything. 3 first-round picks, a second-round pick, and a couple of players for a 36-year-old quarterback. That doesn't make any sense to me, why he hasn't been traded. I would have traded the man 3 months ago. Yeah,
and I think it just goes down to the fact they've been to back-to-back NFC championships. Everyone said, oh, well, Rodgers has no receivers. Well, now they have another Rodgers, and they got Amari Rodgers. So, I mean, now he's got a receiver, but he still has Devontae Adams there who has said every day that he wants Aaron Rodgers back and that he wants to stay in Green Bay forever. And it's just crazy that both sides have let it get this far.
Right.
But mostly that the Packers have, let it get this far with their quarterback. I mean, everybody's seen how important the quarterback position is.
Right. And I have to be honest with you, if Aaron Rodgers was with a team like the San Francisco 49ers these last couple of years, the Niners would have won back-to-back Super Bowls because the Niners have a team that complements Aaron Rodgers very, very well. And I think that is the main problem. Yes, it probably is a little bit about the Packers trading up to get Jordan Love a couple drafts ago. But a lot of it has to do with them not really listening to Aaron Rodgers. He is the best player on your team. He is one of the best players in the NFL. And for the Packers not to listen to him is the reason why they're in this spot right now. And like I'm gonna sound like a broken record. This is music to Bears fans' ears. But it is very unfortunate that the Packers let it get this far because you have a very good quarterback. You don't find Aaron Rodgers every day.
No.
But at the same time, if he does not want to be on your team, and I'm not saying this because I'm a Bears fan, if he does not want to be on your team, get your 3 first-round picks, your second-round pick, and your couple of players, and have a nice day. If this was Madden, he would already be gone.
Oh, 100%.
He would already be gone.
He's got a young quarterback in Jordan Love, so it's not like they would be getting rid of Rodgers and, okay, well, we need a quarterback. Let's look at the free agent market, or let's trade for, some older quarterback that's a backup. But they have a young quarterback who they traded up for, like you said. And like you said before, it's all they had to do was just listen to him. And maybe it wasn't so much he said that it wasn't the trading up for Jordan Love. It sounds like it's more of the not letting him know. I mean, even the Buccaneers let Tom Brady know that they were going to draft Kyle Trask.
Right.
No offense to Kyle Trask, but I don't think Tom Brady needs to be worried about his spot on the team.
Right.
But they still called him and said, hey, just a heads up, we're drafting Kyle Trask. This is nothing about you. And he said, yeah, I don't care. That's totally fine.
I'm comfortable.
But the fact that they at least didn't tell him, and I guess didn't the Bears reach out to Andy Dalton and even tell him, hey, just a heads up.
Right. Yes.
This is where we're going to go.
Yes.
And he hasn't even played a game for them yet, but it's out of respect for the man who's in that position already. And I think for somebody like Aaron Rodgers, you have to at least talk to him and say, here's what we're thinking. We're hoping we can do like a you and Favre thing if you end up leaving and retiring before his contract is up. I mean, if not, then trade Jordan Love if Rodgers comes back. But they got to trade one of them.
And here's my thing. I know people may, and like I said, I'm not saying this because I'm a Bears fan. I truly think that they just need to get rid of Aaron Rodgers. The damage is already done. You get rid of, what's going to happen? You get rid of Jordan Love. He still may not come back. I think it's at that point where he doesn't care if you trade Jordan Love or not. He does not want to be a Green Bay Packer.
No.
He does not want to be a Green Bay Packer. And this is huge news. Huge news. And we don't know when this is going to end, if he's going to report, if he won't, if he'll be traded this year, next offseason. We don't know that yet. Do you have a timetable for Aaron Rodgers? Like, how long do you think this is going to go on?
I mean, I could see him sitting out this whole season and forfeiting his whole salary because he's got enough money. He's got plenty of, the side hustles. But I don't see them necessarily trading him right now. I think because they've held on to him so long, they might as well hold on to him a little bit longer. And I think they're going to hold on to him throughout the season. And if they do trade him, I think it would be next offseason when they can kind of work around the whole cap thing and the dead cap and the penalties and all that. I think just give them another year. At this point, I think they're going to just put it on Aaron Rodgers. Do you want to play or not? You either come back or you sit out. But we will hold your contract and we will fine you every day. And we'll roll with Jordan Love, and then next year we'll trade you if you don't want to come back.
And that's not gonna help either. Like it's a bad situation all around. I think there's a lot of people said that he will come back, but I don't think he's coming back. I think he is truly done in Green Bay. Truly done in Green Bay.
At this point, it would be either trade him or fire the general manager and everybody on the staff. But at this point it's easier to just
get
trade
rid of
Rodgers.
Get your 3 first-round picks and move on.
First-round picks.
It's simple. If
Jordan Love doesn't pan out, you've got first-round picks.
Exactly. Exactly my point. But we'll see what happens. My prediction is Denver, either this offseason or next offseason, because eventually they're going to be like, man, he's 37 years old. That's a lot of draft capital for a 37-year-old quarterback that doesn't even want to be a Packer anymore. So I think eventually, like you said, after they get around the money situations, they will trade Aaron Rodgers, and it'll be a sad day. It will be a sad, happy day.
Yep.
A sad, happy day.
Absolutely.
A sad day for Green Bay, Wisconsin, but a very joyous occasion in Illinois, Chicago. All right. So as we're going through this, I also want to report to you Bears fans that Justin Fields will get basically a lot of the preseason reps. So this is good news. This is big news. They say that it's not going to affect Andy Dalton. I continue to call bullpucky on that. I can't really sit here and believe everything that Matt Nagy and Ryan Pace have to say about any situation. Because when you look at last season, they did the same situation with Mitch Trubisky and Nick Foles. First, it was Mitch Trubisky. Oh, he throws one pick. I'm going to sit him down now, Nick Foles. Oh, Nick Foles sucks. Oh, so I'm going to put Mitch Trubisky back in. So for them to say Andy Dalton is already QB1, to me, I don't think it's fair. I think you should give Justin Fields every chance to start. And I think this is a good step in that direction. If Justin Fields, getting most of the preseason reps, comes in and lights it up against, most of the time in preseason, probably the first stringers, right?
Oh, yeah.
If he comes in and lights it up, you have to give him the chance.
I think if they had said just because he was signed first, a veteran, that's why he's theoretically QB1. To come out and say that he is the week 1 starter or whatever they said about being the starter, that's kind of lame. And I think that's, like you said, I think it's kind of bull. If he does come out in the preseason, no matter what string he's facing, if he lights it up, if he's throwing the ball in perfect spots, it's going to be hard to ignore it and hard to deny and say, I think Andy Dalton's just the safer quarterback right now.
And even the people right now in Chicago that are saying, keep Justin Fields on the bench for at least 4 weeks. How can you say that? How can you truly say that? If he comes out in training camp and outplays Andy Dalton throughout the preseason, How can you sit there and start
Yeah.
Andy Dalton? How do you think that's going to make the locker room feel? Because let's say the locker room knows who the better quarterback is at that time. And let's say it's Justin Fields. You're still going to start Andy Dalton? That's my only problem with it. I would actually love to see Justin Fields maybe sit a couple of games. But if he's ready, put him in.
Yeah.
There's no point to sit him at that point. If he's better than Andy Dalton, you got to do what's best for the Chicago Bears.
And kind of an ideal situation would almost be Justin Fields against the second or third stringers
Right.
in the preseason, kind of struggles, throws some really ugly passes, and then it's like, okay, so we've got a few weeks, we're going to work with him, we're going to figure this out, and then all of a sudden, maybe Andy Dalton starts to struggle,
Right.
you throw Justin Fields in, and it's like, oh, night and day, he's figured it out. Now he sees, and you can kind of see the development. But I think ideally it would almost be best for him if he struggles. I hate to say it, but to struggle against like a second string and then maybe it's like, okay, so that's the reason.
Yeah. Yep.
Okay, we've got a veteran, Andy Dalton. We'll see how you do because we need Justin to, continue to develop and not have all this pressure on him to succeed. But like you said, if he's lighting it up, let him start. Let the kid do it.
Let him start. And like I said, there's 50-50 in Chicago, right? Half the Bears fans are saying, sit him. He needs time to develop. Half the Bears fans are excited. Like, we got our Justin Fields jersey. We're ready to rock. We've waited 20-plus years for a franchise freaking quarterback. We don't want to sit here and watch Andy Dalton for 4 games, right? 4-plus games.
Yeah, right.
But then you have Bears reporters, right, saying, if we start Andy Dalton, the Bears will be 0-4. In the first 4 games. They don't give us a chance with Andy Dalton. But then you can say this side of the argument. Maybe Andy Dalton comes in and goes 4-0 and lights it up. That's also a very good situation for the Chicago Bears. Because if Andy Dalton comes in and beats him out, and I think Justin Fields is going to push Andy Dalton to the max. He's going to compete with him. That's a very good situation for the Chicago Bears. Because now you have Andy Dalton for 1 year. You tell Andy Dalton straight up, hey, we're sorry. Doesn't matter how good you do, but unless you win us a Super Bowl, Justin Fields is playing next year. And even then, if he takes us to the distance for some reason, Justin Fields is still going to be the starter next year.
100%. You wouldn't be able to do that to Justin Fields or even the fan base and just be like, well, we played well with Andy Dalton. We're going to go ahead and go 1 more year with Andy Dalton. No, you signed him to a 1-year deal. Get him out of here.
Right.
Get him out of here.
Right. And my big thing about the Andy Dalton thing, and I stress this in many other podcasts as well. You paid the man $10 million when you could have kept Mr. Trubisky for $2.5 million. I understand you probably didn't like the kid, but $2.5 million compared to $10 million, come on now. That's the side of me saying, you know what? We have to let Andy Dalton play at least a couple of games because you paid him $10 million. And then you have Mr. Nick Foles as our third string paying him what, $8 million a year? It's just crazy. It's just crazy to me. And we can go back and forth all day. But I just can't believe Matt Nagy. Anything he says. When he says that Andy Dalton's QB1, I have to see it to believe it. Once Andy Dalton trots out there, week 1, Sunday Night Football against the Rams, then I'll believe it. But until then, this could be the start of possibly seeing Justin Fields as the quarterback 1 for the Chicago Bears as soon as week 1.
And I would love to see it. And I know at the end of the day, all Bears fans, even the ones who are saying that Dalton should start week 1, all Bears fans would be ecstatic to see Justin Fields start week 1. That's just a fact.
And it's the truth. Would you rather see Andy Dalton struggle and lose games, or would you rather see an exciting young prospect in Justin Fields playing his ass off? We're still losing, but at least it's more exciting to watch. He's our future, right?
Yep. And then you can watch the development. You can see the light bulb sort of click, as they say, and he's starting to read the coverages better, and starting to anticipate receivers' cuts better, and all that.
And this is obviously going to be one of the biggest storylines throughout the offseason, throughout the preseason. It's going to be really interesting to see if the mindset, the plan that Matt Nagy has for Justin Fields, if that changes throughout the offseason.
Yeah.
So the next report that we have, and I know there were some Bears fans that were kind of concerned. Eddie Goldman did not report to his mandatory veteran minicamp. And people were like, okay, what's going on, Eddie Goldman? Obviously, he opted out last season because of COVID. Okay. So we expected him to be back in shape, ready to go. We don't know if he's in shape or out of shape. We don't know that yet. So Bears fans were getting a little bit concerned. We actually signed an extra D tackle just in case. But just over this past week, there was a report saying that Eddie Goldman will attend training camp. This is big news, Tanner. Obviously, you're a Colts fan, but this is big news for the Chicago Bears defensive line. We missed them dearly last season. We got gashed trying to stop the run game. And one of those games where I noticed that we missed Eddie Goldman was actually against the Colts. Jonathan Taylor slicing us up like sliced cheese, just right up the middle, every single play. You know, and that's where you miss a guy like Eddie Goldman. And his impact to the defense is going to help out pass rushers Khalil Mack and Robert Quinn. So it's big to have our best D tackle out there for sure. For sure.
How come he's holding out? Does he want a new contract, or is it?
He's not holding out yet. We don't. Okay. He just got his new contract. Before he opted out, we signed him to a 4-year, I think it was like $28 million contract, and then next season he opted out because of COVID.
Okay, so he just hasn't shown up.
He just hasn't shown up yet. So people were getting a little bit concerned, like, oh, is he healthy? Is he out of shape? Is he not coming back? So there was just a little bit of concern there, but there was a report this week that he will attend training camp. So I'm curious to see if he's in shape and ready to go. Let's see what he's been doing during his opt-out season. Because you can't just sit on the couch. You have to remain in shape and get ready. And another thing that I'm curious to see about Eddie Goldman is the game speed. You sat out for a whole year. Are you going to be ready to play in a game? Because you are the starter. You are our starting D tackle. So this is an interesting story, but he's a big part of the Chicago Bears defense. So really, really big to hopefully finally get him back.
Yeah, and no matter what age, any players that, sitting out a year, getting injured, just not playing for 1 year.
Right.
That's one whole season of development. Even the veterans, they're always still trying to find new things. So 1 year could be a big difference, or he could just be out of control in shape and look like a monster.
Look like a monster. Like looks like a freaking yeah, like a freaking transformer, a monster out there. And let me tell you, Tanner, not having Eddie Goldman, it was very self-evident. Like teams were just throwing us around. Because you have to think, when you have Eddie Goldman in there, it takes 2 blockers. Then you have Akeem Hicks next to him. It takes 2 blockers. What does that mean? That means you have one-on-one against Khalil Mack and one-on-one against Robert Quinn. And those are the matchups that you want. You want your pass rushers that we paid a lot of money to get to the quarterback. And that's where it starts, is in the trenches. He does a lot of the dirty work.
Yeah.
So the last bit of information that we have for today's podcast is that Bears wide receiver Marquis Goodwin is going to compete in the Olympic long jump qualifier. I know a couple of years back he was doing the Olympic stuff. I think he was doing the sprint, though, the 100-meter sprint. I don't think it was long jump. But now he is doing the long jump. We wish him the best. I hope he doesn't hurt himself, because that's, he's been impressive in camp. I've been hearing reports about Marquis Goodwin being that deep speed threat that we needed. Obviously, we have Darnell Mooney being that extra speed guy. But Allen Robinson is more of a possession guy. So we definitely needed some more speed in that receiver room, and that's what Marquis Goodwin brings. Obviously, this is not a big, huge report, but we just want to wish him the best of luck.
Yeah, good for him. It's one thing to be playing in the NFL, but to be able to just go, I'm going to go ahead and just do some stuff at the Olympic trials. A very, very athletic man. So good for him. And good luck. Yeah.
Well, Tanner, thank you so much for joining me again here on the podcast, Keek on the Mic. I really, really appreciate it. You're always welcome, and you know that. Make sure you give Tanner a follow on Instagram. I'll put it in this video and a link down below so you can give him a follow. Yes, he's a Colts fan, people, but he still loves the Chicago Bears, and we love you dearly.
I'm kind of a boring person. If you want to follow, go ahead. Thanks for having me. Love it.
Yes, Bears fan. Yes, Bears fans, don't forget that you'll be able to listen to this episode of Geek on the Mic on Apple Podcasts. Make sure you rate and review this podcast. That'll be much appreciated. Make sure you share this episode of Geek on the Mic with every single Bears fan that you know. But other than that, I'll be back for an all-new episode right here on Geek on the Mic. Thanks, guys.
Now this is a podcast all about Bears. You either cheering for this team or just pulling your hair. I like to take a minute, just sit right back and tell you how I became the #1 Bears fan. That boy is Benny Hunter. Cake on the mic, cake on the mic. Cake on the mic, cake on the mic. People, this the intro. Sacramento, California, born and raised. And Antelope is where I spend most of my days. Talk bad about my team, you must be a clown. This is Geek on the Mic, so you know you better bear down. Bear down.